About a week ago, many of you may be aware that America lost its 41st president, George Herbert Walker Bush. And they cried and they celebrated his life. Many accolades, spoke of how he was one of the only sitting presidents during his time that was the director or a member of the CIA that became president. Spoke also that he was one, if not the only, president that actually fought in a war. And also talked about how much of a gentle soul he was, how kind he was, understanding and compassionate. But was this really just fluff? Was it the truth? As much as we celebrate the successes of individuals and their accomplishments, do we lend as much credence to the injury that they've done to people as well? Now, I know there's some that say, oh, he is twisting it already. If you don't like what I'm saying, just shut the channel down and go about your merry way. Watch another video. Watch the NFL. Something that's not going to benefit you at all. Somehow or another in America, we always have this thing with people telling it like it is, telling the truth. I'm a commentator. That's what I do. It's by choice. It's by unction. It is being moved to do so by greater powers than myself, even making the common man aware of the not so common world in which we live. So now, do they also tell you about the atrocities that George Herbert Walker Bush caused against humanity? Did they also tell you that amongst many other things that he has done wrong, and you can look it up in your leisure, but I just want to point just one thing out. All of this celebratory type of thing went on about a week ago, holding his body in state, and then the ceremonies and the people speaking about him, and then his son doing the eulogy and tearing up at the end. Even evil men are mourned by other evil men. It's true. It's just nature. And this situation was no different. So George Herbert Walker Bush in 1991 gave the order for the United States military to bomb a civilian institution or shelter, if you will, in Amaraya, the city, Amaraya, Iraq. He knew that there were civilians inside that facility, along with other facilities that were bombed as well, civilian in nature, energy, plants, and so forth. He was trying to send someone a message, but he killed under his watch, based on his order to do so, over 400 civilians in Amaraya. Men, women, and children who did nothing wrong to anyone. George Herbert Walker Bush did this, but yet he's celebrated. I'm just using that one example. Now, I want to say that what he did is almost paled by what his son did when he was in office, the 43rd president. Or is he the 45th? It doesn't matter what number. It doesn't benefit anybody to know what number it is. We just know George W. Bush. The same character. Oh, excuse me. Am I disrespecting him? I'll say it again. The same character, the same clown that created a war against the people for political reasons. They had weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. And Saddam Hussein at the time was not playing ball. He was not following the UN sanctions and so forth. So even after Colin Powell told him, we found no weapons of mass destruction, the inspectors were there. Bush gave the command, tell them to get out of there because we're going to go in. So President George W. Bush convinced a small coalition of other nations to join the United States in the war against Saddam Hussein, who never stood a chance against the U.S. and its so-called allies at the time. This man bombed Iraq 24 hours a day, day in, day out, day in, day out, for a while. George W. Bush's military, the U.S. military that is, bombed Iraq into submission. Now, the amount of people that died in the 9/11 catastrophe was approximately 3,000 in the Twin Towers during that time. But contrasted to how many people that were killed in Iraq, which you never hear them talk about in mainstream news, and you never will, over 100,000 men, women, and children were killed in Iraq. Now, for what? The question is, for what? Why did Bush go in and authorize a takeover of another country? Because that's exactly what happened. They occupied Iraq. Can you say power? And there's still contractors, and there's still thousands of military soldiers in Iraq as I'm speaking right now in this video. What are they there for? It's not their country, or is it? But anyway, how do you say that Saddam Hussein is unstable and that he has these weapons of mass destruction and he's not complying with the international laws or treaties? So we're going to have to go in and make our presence known and make him stop his nuclear program. He had none. It's evident. This is in the news. This is in public knowledge if you do your research. It's real simple. It's not complicated. But once he was told that there were no weapons of mass destruction there, and of course we have satellites all over the planet, the US does. Once he was told this, he switched gears and made the statement that, oh, he's a dictator, he's killing innocent men, women, and children. So we're going to make this a humanitarian mission now. For real. But what about North Korea at the time, who had a dictator who was doing the same thing? The United States didn't attack him or that country. Why? What about Africa? There were places in Africa that had dictators and still do today, certain countries. And you're not attacking Africa. They attacked Iraq. He attacked Iraq because there was an agenda already that had been planned for years. Go figure.